The Temptations, 1960. Members then and now, 2026. What if the group behind the happiest song in America was hiding a story of heartbreak so deep it's almost unbearable? The Temptations gave us My Girl and those flawless 5-part harmonies. But behind the sharp suits and dazzling moves, tragedy stalked them relentlessly. A lead singer gone at 34, a golden voice lost to cancer, a star who fell from the very top. Of the 5 original members who made history in 1960, only one is still alive today. And at 83, he's still on that stage, carrying the torch alone. Before we begin, subscribe to Hidden Celebrity Stories and tell us in the comments, which Temptations song takes you back? Stay with us, because their real story will move you.
David Ruffin. There are singers who join a group, and there are singers who redefine it forever. David Ruffin belonged unmistakably to the second kind. The moment he stepped forward in 1964 and poured himself into the lead of My Girl, the Temptations crossed from promising Motown act into cultural immortality. That raspy, pleading tenor, equal parts sandpaper and silk, became the sound millions fell in love with, even as the man behind it wrestled with wounds that never truly healed. His beginnings were steeped in loss. Born Davis Eli Ruffin on January 18, 1941, in the tiny community of Wynot, Mississippi, he lost his mother before he turned 1 and came up hard in a traveling gospel family, sharing stages with the likes of Mahalia Jackson long before Detroit and Motown beckoned. Once My Girl topped the charts in 1965, Ruffin became the group's magnetic centerpiece, carrying searing hits such as Ain't Too Proud to Beg and I Wish It Would Rain. But acclaim swelled his appetite for recognition. He pressed for top billing and a limousine of his own, and as his reliability faltered and his behavior grew unpredictable, the group dismissed him in June 1968. A solo career flickered to life. My Whole World Ended charted respectably in 1969. Yet, without Motown's guiding hand, his course turned unsteady. His private life proved just as volatile, including a relationship with Motown singer Tammy Terrell that, by many accounts, became abusive. A truth history rightly refuses to soften or excuse. For all the turbulence, the man simply could not stop singing, rejoining his former bandmates on stage in 1982 and later touring beside Eddie Kendricks. On June 1, 1991, David Ruffin died at the age of 50. Such was his stature that Aretha Franklin, Stevie Wonder, and Michael Jackson, who discreetly paid for the service, gathered to mourn him. Whatever pain shadowed his years, his voice remains eternal, alive in every bar of My Girl.
Eddie Kendricks. Where Ruffin brought fire, Eddie Kendricks brought air and light. His gossamer falsetto seemed to hover above the group's harmonies, like sunlight on water, gracing the Temptations with some of the tenderest, most enchanting records of the Motown age. Whether gliding through The Way You Do the Things You Do, or aching gently across Just My Imagination, his was the voice of romance itself. He arrived on December 17, 1939, in Union Springs, Alabama, and grew up in Birmingham, where the church choir first revealed his gift, and where he began harmonizing beside a boyhood friend named Paul Williams, a bond that would carry both men all the way to stardom. The vocal group they founded together would, in time, become the Temptations, and from the outset, Kendricks distinguished himself as much through his sleek sophistication as through that soaring instrument. By 1971, worn down by friction inside the group, he set out alone. And where many former stars stumble, Kendricks flourished, riding the funk and disco currents of the decade to substantial hits like Keep On Truckin' and Boogie Down. A 1982 reunion with the original lineup rekindled old magic, and his later performances alongside David Ruffin gave devoted fans a treasured second act. Yet years of heavy cigarette use exacted a merciless price. Confronted with a lung cancer diagnosis in 1991, he submitted to surgery, But rather than retreat into private suffering, he turned his ordeal outward, pleading with younger fans to abandon cigarettes, determined that his pain might spare someone else's. On October 5, 1992, Eddie Kendricks succumbed to lung cancer in his hometown of Birmingham at only 52. He left 3 children behind, along with a body of work that few vocalists could ever hope to match. His falsetto still drifts through the decades, weightless, luminous, and unmistakably his own, a reminder that some voices are simply touched by grace.
Otis Williams.
At last, we reach the heart of our question, the single figure who remains. Among all the original Temptations, only Otis Williams still walks among us, and at 83 years old, as of 2025, he continues to command the stage, steering the very group he helped conjure into being more than 60 years ago. He was born Otis Miles Jr. on October 30th, 1941, in Texarkana, Texas, before relocating as a youngster to Detroit, where the city's electric musical currents swept him up completely. In 1960, he brought 2 local outfits together to form what would become the Temptations, and although the spotlight of lead vocals rarely fell on him, he supplied something arguably more vital: structure, discipline, choreography, and unflagging resolve. He described himself as the group's glue, a modest word for the force that held everything together across decades of upheaval. Through an endless procession of departures, arrivals, feuds, and funerals, Williams endured as the immovable center. He and Melvin Franklin once swore to one another that they would never abandon the group, and when Franklin passed in 1995, Williams found himself the final survivor of the original 5. Grief visited his private world as well. In 1985, his only son, Otis Lamont, perished in a workplace accident at just 24, a blow Williams later said he absorbed by pouring himself into performance, converting private anguish into public joy. His pen proved as enduring as his voice. His 1988 memoir, Temptations, became a hit 1998 television miniseries, and, in 2019, the Tony-winning Broadway production Ain't Too Proud. In 2022, the group marked 6 full decades with the album Temptations 60, welcoming Smokey Robinson. Honored with induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1989, Otis Williams stands today as a breathing bridge between a storied past and the present, the last guardian of a legend he refuses to let fade. Melvin Franklin. Beneath every soaring harmony must lie something solid to hold it aloft. And for the Temptations, that bedrock was the cavernous bass of Melvin Franklin. Nicknamed Blue, his subterranean tone became one of the group's most cherished signatures, the deep, rolling foundation upon which those glittering 5-part harmonies were built, and from which they took flight. He came into the world as David English on October 12, 1942, in Montgomery, Alabama, weathering a difficult childhood before relocating to Detroit to live with his mother and stepfather, whose name he ultimately embraced as his own. Singing in neighborhood groups as a teenager, he was invited in 1958 by his dearest friend Otis Williams to join the ensemble that would blossom into the Temptations, and at just 16, he seized the moment that would define his life. Lead vocals seldom came his way, yet the group's sound would have been unthinkable without him, and his gentle humor and steadying temperament repeatedly calmed the storms that swirled among strong personalities. But Franklin bore a heavy physical burden. A 1968 diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis set him on years of treatment whose side effects gradually eroded his health, opening the door to graver complications. Still, he refused to yield, famously hauling oxygen tanks along on tour so he could keep singing for the audiences he adored. A devoted husband to Kimberly Franklin and father of 5, he shared with Otis Williams a friendship that time could not fracture. The two had pledged never to walk away from the group, and Franklin honored that vow faithfully, relinquishing his place only when his failing body left him no choice. Melvin Franklin died on February 23, 1995, of heart failure at the age of 52. 18 years later, In 2013, the recording industry granted him a posthumous Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, a belated but fitting salute to the humble giant whose bass gave the Temptations their unshakable ground. Dennis Edwards. Replacing a beloved frontman is a perilous assignment, but when Dennis Edwards assumed lead duties for the Temptations in 1968, he did far more than survive the comparison. He flung open the door to the group's most daring reinvention. His muscular, church-forged voice propelled them headlong into the turbulent, exhilarating territory that would come to be called psychedelic soul. Born on February 3, 1943, in Fairfield, Alabama, Edwards absorbed his earliest lessons in his father's church, then refined his craft through formal study at the Detroit Conservatory of Music and a stint alongside the esteemed gospel act, The Mighty Clouds of Joy. A period of military service followed, and when the Temptations went searching for a bold new voice, Edwards proved the perfect answer. The raw urgency he brought supplied the group with a combustible new energy, powering their very first Grammy triumph on Cloud 9 in 1969. From there, he anchored an audacious sequence of socially charged landmarks: I Can't Get Next to You, Ball of Confusion, and the monumental Papa Was a Rollin Stone, recordings that expanded the very definition of what soul music could confront and express amid an era of profound national reckoning. Across the ensuing decades, Edwards exited and returned to the fold more than once, weaving his Temptations legacy together with a solo path that yielded the 1984 favorite, Don't Look Any Further. However the lineups shifted around him, he remained esteemed as one of the most authoritative voices ever to front the group. Dennis Edwards passed away on February 1, 2018, in Chicago, a mere 2 days shy of his 75th birthday. He was laid to rest with full honors at Jefferson Barracks National Cemetery in Missouri, near his mother. From modest Alabama pews to the grandest stages on earth, he infused the Temptations with ferocity and conviction, and his imprint on the evolution of soul endures as powerfully as ever. Paul Williams. Long before Ruffin's rasp or Kendricks's falsetto came to define the group, one man set its tone entirely: Paul Williams, the Temptations' first lead voice, its supple baritone, and the choreographic genius who taught the group how to move. He was not merely a cornerstone of their early sound. He was their physical poetry, the architect of the elegance that made them unforgettable to watch as well as to hear. Born on July 2, 1939, in Birmingham, Alabama, Paul absorbed gospel at his father's side and formed an early group with his constant childhood companion, Eddie Kendricks. Their shared ambition carried them from Alabama to Detroit, where they helped assemble the outfit that would sign to Motown and ascend as the Temptations. His gifts announced themselves immediately, not only in the warm authority of his baritone on numbers like Don't Look Back, but in his singular role as the group's original choreographer. The crisp, breathtaking routines that became synonymous with the Temptations flowed from his imagination, and his influence radiated outward across Motown itself. He even devised steps for the Supremes, shaping the label's very presentation. But beyond the footlights, Paul waged quiet, punishing battles. He lived with sickle cell anemia, an agonizing condition he concealed from the public, and as his health deteriorated, alcohol and deepening financial strain closed in around him. By the early 1970s, illness had drained the power from his once glorious voice, and the group tenderly retained him as choreographer and consultant, clinging to hope for his recovery. On August 17, 1973, Paul Williams died at just 34 years old. Authorities officially ruled his death a suicide, though certain family members disputed that conclusion, and the complete truth remains a subject of debate even now. He left behind a wife and 8 children. To everyone who loved the Temptations, he endures as the graceful baritone and master choreographer, the tender, soulful heartbeat of where it all began. 5 voices that built the greatest vocal group in history, and today, Only Otis Williams is still standing, carrying the torch at 83. Their story leaves us with a question worth asking. Who was the truly irreplaceable Temptation? Was it David Ruffin, whose raspy lead on My Girl made them immortal? Eddie Kendricks and his heavenly falsetto? Or Otis Williams, the quiet glue, who kept the group alive for more than 6 decades, while the others came and went? And is it right that the Temptations still tour today, with none of the original voices but one? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and tell us which member moved you most. If you love rediscovering the legends who shaped our music, subscribe to Hidden Celebrity Stories.